Hello, everyone. Welcome to King Po Myers, and we are continuing our special King Po Myers True Crime with
Oh
our
yeah.
very special guest, Sammy. Sammy, how are you?
Hi. I'm okay. I'm still having internet issues, but I'm doing okay.
Um, for those who are new to KPM True Crime, first of all, go back and listen to all of our old episodes because we cover some characters,
Oh yeah.
and essentially the basic
Like
crux.
literally and figuratively.
Yes, it's some of these I really can't get out of my head. Um, Completely random, but someone I think added me as a friend on Instagram or Facebook. I forget which one it was, and it looked like Morgan from a previous episode.
Oh
It
snap.
it made me jump. I was like, ah!
Oh my
It looked
God.
like an
That's
old
wild.
it looked like an older version of Morgan, and I'm like, did she have internet right like access?
That's a great question. I wonder um what severity of crime that you have to do in order to get like internet rights taken away. Because I know like prisons have pen pals, but like there's some people that are in prison that like are typing from prison.
Oh, imagine if like someone gets out and they start listening to these podcasts like,
Well, they're
oh,
probably gonna be pissed with the way they're being portrayed.
oh, motherfuckers.
Yeah. God.
So for those who don't know, essentially Sammy tells us a true crime tale. I don't know what the hell she is bringing to the table. I just sit back and react. So Sammy, last week's it wasn't mind-numbingly stupid. It was just mind-numbingly frustrating. It wasn't like the Grinder Killer where I was physically angry. Like, how can you be
Yeah.
so stupid? The last one
Yeah.
was like
It wasn't even police being inept. It was just they couldn't do anything.
they were a few years away from having the technology they needed for
Yeah.
certain pieces of evidence.
Literally a singular year. 1 year.
What do you have for
Yeah.
us this week?
All right. Well, this week we have an unsolved case.
I don't like unsolved cases because then I get like, I want justice. I'm like, Batman, justice.
Batman. Well, this week we have the 1982 Chicago Tylenol murders.
Chicago Tylenol murders.
Have you ever heard of this case?
I have not.
Okay. So it is unsolved to this day. And there is no clear motive other than to incite chaos. Um, it's crazy. This one, and mind you, this is the cases that I choose to cover on the show are just cases that have bothered me for one reason or another, and this is one of the ones that has bothered me because, like with Black Dahlia, like it's like the reason it bothered me is because we know that one of the suspects they had, we know one of them did it. We just can't like get them, you know.
Yep.
So, but for this one, it's like there's so many suspects, but almost none of them have enough evidence to have done it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's just really frustrating. Um so with that being said, would you like me to jump right in?
Oh, please do.
All right. So September 29th, 1982, 7 people in the Chicago, Illinois area ingested poison Tylenol pills and consequently collapsing and dying shortly after. The victims included 27-year-old Mary Rayner, 31-year-old Mary McFarland, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman, 35-year-old Paula Prince, 27-year-old Adam Janus, 19-year-old Teresa Janus, and 25-year-old Stanley Janus, 3 of which were from the same family, unfortunately.
Oh.
Um, Adam Janus, the 27-year-old, collapsed after ingesting extra strength Tylenol. He was rushed to the hospital where he died. When the family returned home to grieve, both of the brothers Stanley his brother Stanley, sorry, not both of the brother Stanley and his wife Teresa took a Tylenol, resulting in both of their deaths, making it 3 deaths in the same family on the same day.
Oh my God.
Which is just fucked up because, like, you've been crying, you're at the hospital, you've been crying, you probably have a migraine from crying because you've got all this sinus pressure in your head. You go home, take an extra strength Tylenol, boom, fucking dead. It's so messed up. And the fact that all 3 of them died in the same house would eventually lead to investigators connecting the dots on the night of the 29th.
I would hope they would connect
So
those
Cook
dots.
County, yeah, I would hope so.
Wait a
I
minute.
would fear that, like, if some other family member would be blamed. That would be my worry. But Cook County investigator Nick Fisher compared the Janus's Tylenol bottle to the bottle from another victim named Mary Kellerman. And once he had both bottles, he noticed that they shared the same control number, which is like the same number that, like, same batch number basically, which was 880. Deputy Medical Examiner Donahue says he told Fisher to basically smell the bottles just to see if he noticed anything, and he remembers that they both smelled like almonds. And cyanide typically smells like bitter almonds.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Fun fact.
yeah, fun fact. If you smell almonds, run. Exposure to a large dose of cyanide by any method can lead to seizures, cardiac arrest, respiratory failure. That's why people in Nazis in World War II used to carry them around so that they would chew them so that they wouldn't be interrogated, etc. There's a reason why cyanide was commonplace. So blood test results would show that the victims that had taken it, it was 100 or even 1,000 times the lethal amount to kill a person. So, like, there was no reason for the dose to be that high of cyanide. You didn't need that much to kill a person. Deputy Medical Examiner Donahue said that he spoke with an attorney for Johnson & Johnson Tylenol's manufacturer parent company by the evening of October 1st, like literally days after this happened, right after all 7 victims had died. So authorities were pretty certain that the Tylenol had been intentionally poisoned with the cyanide by someone late at night. Because if you don't know this, cyanide actually, like, it if you have it in its raw form, it, like, not disintegrates, but it doesn't work after a certain point. So, like, if you were going to poison a capsule, then you literally, like, it would have to be taken within a certain, like, very, very close to when it was placed and made, otherwise it won't work. So
Wow.
like, otherwise it'll, like, just eat through, you know. So it was announced that all Tylenol will be pulled from the shelves immediately. McNeil Consumer Products, which is the subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson that manufactured all the Tylenol, recalled over 31 million bottles of Tylenol and issued warnings. They offered to replace and recall all of the bottles, everything. It was just, they put up they even put up like $100,000 reward for anybody with information on who could have done this. All of these precautions were estimated to have cost the company roughly $100 million, which is, like, an insane amount of money. Like, just that's not even, like, a tangible amount of money for me, you know. Like, $100 million is such a large amount of money that, like, that's not even, like, something my brain can grasp. Which, that's a lot of money for a company to lose, to take accountability for something that they didn't even do, you know. So October 5th, on a Tuesday, the U.S. Attorney General, as well as the FBI, were on the case, in addition to local authorities. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to sneeze. Just kidding. Maybe I won't. Illinois State Attorney General says, oh no, I think it's gone. Says that he believes in the initial stages that there were about 1,200 actual leads that could potentially, not even just like tips, 1,200 leads.
That's a lot of leads.
That's a lot of leads to follow. It is estimated that the US newspapers ran over 100,000 separate articles about the incident. Nationwide panic, of course, happened. People are freaking out. People that thought that they may have been poisoned are freaking overwhelming hospitals and poison control call centers and everything. Like, it's crazy. The CPD actually went throughout the city giving warnings about Tylenol on loudspeakers. Like they went around with a truck with a loudspeaker on, and they basically were like, "If you have anything, please don't take it." Like yelling on a loudspeaker, which is just so like end times to me. Like I recently saw I know it sounds crazy. I recently saw a video of somebody in Japan or China, I can't remember where it was. I believe it was Japan, that they currently have a lockdown right now due to COVID. And they had, I guess they had like in the middle of the city over this huge loudspeaker just telling people to stay home and stay inside. And it was very dystopian. It was very scary. Like it echoed like a scary amount you see in the streets below. No one's moving. It was very eerie. And that's kind of how I imagine this. Like, don't take your Tylenol. So there's all that happening. And then there were a slew of copycat crimes
No.
that people were poisoning pills with like rat poison and hydrochloric acid and something that like totally didn't make sense to police at first was that all of the victims had bought their Tylenol from different stores, and those stores got their Tylenol from different production plants. So like it had to have been like, how were they connected, you know? They definitely were, but like the only connection was the control number. So labs were set up and capsules began to come through for testing. Over 10 million recalled pills were tested, and in total, 50 capsules were found to contain cyanide across 8 bottles. 5 of the bottles belonged to the victims. 2 of the bottles were sent back in the recall, and 1 of the bottles was actually found still sitting on a shelf unsold. Which is like, anybody could have bought that. Like, no fingerprints or other physical evidence was found. There was also no evidence clearly showing the killer's trail in the stores on surveillance cameras, and surveillance cameras weren't really common then. So like a lot of them like didn't have it. So investigators then explored the possibility of this being like white collar crime syndicate, like wanting to take Johnson and Johnson stock, like, you know, and it's super sad because after this happened, like their share of the non-prescription painkiller market like completely just was destroyed. They went from 35% to 8%. It just totally killed them. Yeah. They also looked into literally any like employee that has ever been like pissed off that like may have wanted to do that had worked where the tainted Tylenol was made, stored, or sold. Any shoplifters who had been caught within that time period were reevaluated. People who had just been released from prison or psychiatric hospitals around the freaking area were interrogated, and like they were so desperate to find somebody. Like the police like even publicized the victims' funerals like to try to see if like they would return like hoping to like show up at one of them because people are weird like that. They eventually reached this theory that whoever did it visited each of the stores that and then purchased the Tylenol, planted the potassium cyanide in the capsules, placed those pills back in the bottle, and then returned the bottles around September, around one day before the deaths occurred, because the cyanide would eventually eat through the capsule. So whoever committed the crime would have to do it close to when the capsules were purchased and consumed. So, which is like, how do you know? You know, like if
Yeah,
like how do you
that's
know somebody is going to buy that? I guess like it's common enough that people are going to like restock, but like how do you know they're going to go to that specific convenience store and get Tylenol? You know, I guess it's common enough that you're like, oh yeah, it'll go. But I mean,
but to
you
do all of
planted
that.
8 bottles. Yeah. And there's no motive. There's no motive here that they could have thought of. So, excuse me. The first suspect that we have is this dude named Roger Arnold. He was a dock worker and he said some suspicious shit at a bar one night about the murders. The police questioned him, searched his home, and they turned up several interesting connections. He worked at a jewel warehouse with the father of one of the victims, Mary Rayner. Adam Janus, another one of the first of that family's victims, had purchased his Tylenol from a dual convenience store, and according to the New York Times, the store where Mary Rayner bought her pills was across the street from where Roger Arnold's wife's psychiatric ward was located. I don't know if her wife was in a psychiatric ward or if she was running it. Either way, it's a little sus. They found, the only thing I can find is that they said they found how-to crime manuals, which is like crime for dummies. Like, why would you buy that?
Why would you not destroy it?
Yeah, right? I mean, it's easy to burn that. I mean, I guess, okay. So I guess maybe that would be something you would do if you bought it. 1, bought the book in cash. 2, destroyed the book afterward. Because then they can't search your internet search history. Just a thought. Not giving anyone suggestions on how to commit crimes, I promise. I just think that that's probably why he had a book.
Yeah.
Police found evidence of chemistry in his home, such as beakers and other equipment, and a bag of powder. And the powder was tested, and it turned out to be potassium carbonate, not potassium cyanide. Which is something that I found interesting, because I'm like, well, if they found that, did they find any other chemicals? Because chemicals have reactions. So if he had a second chemical that would have turned that potassium carbonate into potassium cyanide, do you not see it, buddy? So like that one confused me.
Roger's looking like a pretty decent suspect.
Yeah, but like, also he refused to take a lie detector test, so they never found enough to prosecute him. And then the following year, in June of 1983, he shot an innocent man outside of a bar one night, under the impression that he had turned Arnold into the police for his suspicious comments at the bar, which he hadn't. The man died, and Arnold was sentenced, and he got out early on parole. So he's just chilling. Yeah. And then, like I mentioned in the last episode, we have a very similar suspect, the Unabomber. So the Unabomber's name, I'm sorry?
The Unabomber is actually a suspect as the
Tylenol
killer.
Yes, he was. He's actually got quotes. He's got the longest suspect list that I have right here. The Unabomber's name was Theodore J. Kaczynski. And he used to be a mathematician, but he is currently serving life in prison for killing 3 people and wounding 23 others with bombs sent through the mail. So he is an Illinois native. And his first bomb was found in Chicago, where he lived at the time. So all 7 of the killings occurred within Illinois for the Tylenol murders. However, one Tylenol death that is not official is the poisoning via extra strength Tylenol of J. Adam Mitchell in Sheridan, Wyoming. And that occurred a little over 2 months before the Chicago Tylenol murders. The only reason it's mentioned is because Sheridan, Wyoming is a town on the way to Kaczynski's cabin in Montana where he lived at the time of the killings. So it was kind of en route to Chicago.
Okay.
Kaczynski's victims also had connections to wood. I think this is a conspiracy theory, in my opinion. One of the surviving victims was named Percy Woods, who resided in Lake Forest, Illinois. Another victim was Gilbert Murray, president of the California Forestry Association. And Kaczynski's bombs, when he did the Unabombing killings, were partially made of wood, and he would often use return addresses and stuff involving wood words. He at one point he used the name Frederick Benjamin Isaac Wood with an address of 549 Wood Street in Wood Lake, California. The only reason this is mentioned is because 3 founders of Johnson & Johnson have the middle name Wood. What kind of middle name is Wood? I've never met somebody whose middle name was Wood.
I knew a girl.
The only person is Evan Rachel Wood, but that's her last name.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard that name be a name. I think personally that's kind of looking a little far into it. I see the connections. I think that's kind of tinfoil hat. But in February of that year, the FBI office in Chicago announced that they would use advancements in forensic technology to review all of the evidence relevant to the Tylenol killings and requested a DNA sample from Kaczynski.
Okay.
So he said, the officer said the FBI was prepared to get a court order to compel me to provide the DNA sample, but wanted to know whether I would provide the sample voluntarily. He said that he was willing to provide the sample only on the condition that the courts not allow the United States Marshal Service to auction off his cabin belongings. Because why they did that, I don't know. When there is an act,
Sammy is baffled.
Genuinely, why would you sell a killer's fucking belongings when he's an active suspect for another case? Right?
Yeah.
Why would you? Why? Where's the logic there? Did you just want to get rid of it? Did you want to make some money? What? Why are you selling it in the first place? Where's that money going to? Victims' families?
No, it's going to the government.
Yeah. I don't understand.
Victims' families.
I don't know, man. It's just a thought. I don't know why they would have done this auction in the first place. I don't know what the purpose of it was.
That's very bizarre.
And his reasoning that he didn't want this auction to happen was this. Even on the assumption that the FBI is entirely honest, he doesn't trust these people, obviously, an assumption I'm unwilling to make, partial DNA profiles can throw suspicion on persons who are entirely innocent. For example, such profiles can show that 5% or 3% or 1% of Americans have the same partial profiles as the person who committed a certain crime. If a match were to occur, some of the evidence seized from my cabin in 1996 may turn out to be important. So I'm not sure if he's admitting to anything there, or maybe he knew somebody that like may have been connected that he just isn't saying, or what. But either way, he believed that the items up for auction may be crucial in proving that he never owned this like cyanide,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um uh
Uh,
Unfortunately, the auction went forward as planned and he declined to give his DNA. So there's that. Why? I don't have any words. I don't have words. Okay. And then our last suspect is a man named James Lewis. He is a tax accountant. And a week after the first deaths of the Chicago Tylenol murders, Johnson & Johnson received a photocopy of a handwritten, unsigned letter. They found his fingerprints on it, clearly. And the letter read, Johnson & Johnson, parent of McNeil Laboratories. Gentlemen. Gentlemen, as you can see, it is easy to place cyanide, both potassium and sodium, into capsules sitting on store shelves. And since the cyanide is inside the gelatin, it is easy to get buyers to swallow the bitter pill. Another beauty is that cyanide operates quickly. It takes so very little, and there will be no time to take countermeasures. If you don't mind the publicity of these little capsules, then do nothing. So far, I've spent less than $50, and it takes me less than 10 minutes per bottle. If you want to stop the killing, then wire $1 million to bank account number 8445957 at Continental Illinois Bank, Chicago, Illinois. Don't attempt to involve the FBI or local Chicago authorities with the letter. A couple of phone calls by me will undo anything you could possibly do. This guy sounds like an evil
how
supervillain that just gave his bank
menacing.
information to the police. like you like they're gonna find that it's your bank information, dude. Like it's not his, but why would you do that?
Why use a domestic account? I mean, that's why I had a friend in college who was an accounting major, and I asked him, I'm like, all right, this is a stupid question, but I need to know. Why is it in the movies that
Swiss
they
bank
all
accounts.
Swiss bank accounts? Because the Swiss are incredibly insane about their privacy laws. So I don't know much more than that, but essentially when you get a Swiss bank account, no one can touch that. Like that, it is so
Interesting.
private. And that's why, like, in order to get one, you don't just go and get a Swiss bank account. Like, it's,
Do you have to go to Switzerland to get it, or can you like get it online?
I feel like you have to go there. Like, I don't think we could open them. I think you need to have like X amount of money. Like,
Oh, so you actually like have to deposit like a significant amount into the account to actually activate it.
if anyone is listening and knows more about Swiss bank accounts,
Yeah,
please let us
please
know.
let us know. Like, I would like to know how to open a Swiss bank account. I want to know why. I want to know how.
But essentially, it's privacy. That's why you always hear Swiss bank accounts.
Yeah, interesting. I did not know that.
I know. Just use
Yeah.
Chicago bank. That'll be fine.
Yeah, no, just give me $1 million at this very specific place, at this very specific bank, and we'll be good. So his fingerprints were found on the letter. And a warrant for his arrest was issued, and the ensuing manhunt would end on December 13th. So they found his fingerprints in October, and they didn't find him until December. I don't know how hard it is to find a man, but he was a tax accountant. It's not like he was like world traveler James Lewis. Like,
FBI should have went over to Australia, been like, "Hey, can we borrow Leonard? He's a bloodhound."
yeah, give me Leonard.
Get him, Leonard.
Yeah. So in December, it took him 2 months to find him. He was spotted in a New York public library annex. He wasn't trying to hide. They couldn't find him apparently. So the bank account actually wasn't his. Um, it belonged to a man named Frederick Miller McKay. He was a guy that Lewis believed like basically like gypped his wife out of like $511 and change, and he only included his bank account to like expose him, like basically that he stole from them, and it had nothing to do with the murders.
Can you imagine if a lunatic gave your bank
Hey,
information as a way to extort this company, and it's like, wait, that's my savings account,
yeah. Oh man.
and then you hear your door getting kicked in, like,
But like how would he get that too? You know, like he would have to know somebody in their family that would be willing to give them the bank account information. So someone is not very, very secretive in that family. um, so his stuff, it did lead investigators to suspect that he could be the Tylenol killer. Apparently, he chased his mother with an axe when he was 19. Yeah, just throw that in there. He chased his mom with an axe, and then was committed to a mental state hospital after taking 36 Anacin pills. So there's a tie right there. He was diagnosed with catatonic schizophrenia. Uh, Later, he tried to explain that both of these events were attempts to avoid the Vietnam draft, which we just talked about with Leonard. I knew I had that in there somewhere. I definitely saw the Vietnam War somewhere in my notes, and I thought it was Leonard, but it's not. It's this guy.
I'm not going to war, Ma.
Yeah. Hey, Mom, let me chase you a little bit with this axe real quick. And just like, that way I don't die. You might die, but I won't. So he was charged in a this guy, it's like it's bombshell after bombshell. It's in 1981, or no, I'm sorry. 1978. I'm sorry. So this was a little bit after he avoided the Vietnam draft. 1978, he was charged and acquitted for the murder of a man named Raymond West, who had been found dismembered in his own home in the summer of 1978.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He was just, I guess, a casual suspect in that case, and they let him go. After that, he and his wife launched a business venture attempting to import pill making machines from that were made in Indiana. So again, with the pills. In 1981, he was suspected for falsifying credit card applications and using fake addresses. And in a search of his home on December 4th, 1981, the police found plenty of evidence to arrest Lewis for these particular crimes. And as a result, he and his wife fled to Chicago, where they lived under assumed names for almost a year, bringing us to the Tylenol murder timeline. The Lewises bought Amtrak tickets from Chicago to New York City on September 4th of 1982, which was 25 days before the Tylenol deaths began. And like I said, like he would have had to place them fairly close to when they occurred. Mm-hmm. And that was 25 days out. That was way too long. So there's no way that he could have done it that way if they did indeed go on Amtrak. Some people on the original case thought that it could have been possible for the perpetrator to fly into the O'Hare airport, rent a car, plant the poison, leave Chicago. But also airports have surveillance. And surveillance video from one of the drugstores showed a bearded man who people thought looked like him. but there was no positive ID and no one could place him in Chicago that close to the deaths at all. So like it kind of timeline wise and time wise, it's not possible for him to have done it.
Mm-hmm.
So they never had enough to prosecute him, let alone convict him of it. But his letter writing fiasco that he wrote that letter to Johnson and Johnson led him to being convicted of extortion because he's a dumbass like that.
Just shaking my head, guys. Just shaking my head.
Yeah, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but served a little bit less than 13. And while he was in prison, he offered his help to police with this investigation, apparently, and explained and drew in detail how someone might go about injecting the capsules with the cyanide. Like, buddy, you're making it worse. You're making it worse. You're not helping yourself. He was released, and he and his wife now live in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, he's one of my neighbors.
Oh boy. In 2010, he published a book titled Poison: The Doctor's Dilemma.
Dude.
It's just not a good look, dude. He would insist that the book had nothing to do with the Tylenol murders and said that he regretted sending police that letter. The fictional plot of the book is about death by water poisoned with lead in southern Missouri. And he went on public access TV in January of 2010 to promote the book. They ended up asking him questions about the Tylenol murders, and he was like, fuck you guys, I'm here to talk about my book. And basically they just directed, he was like, I direct any and all questions that you are asking me right now to my freaking lawyer. And he refused to comment on it.
It's just like OJ, when OJ released, or he
like,
tried to release the book.
If I did it, yeah. We'll go over OJ at some point in this show, I swear. Because I really want to cover that case as well. The positive thing that came out of this case, and this is what I was mentioning as a hint in the last episode, was the FDA and Johnson & Johnson came together over this case to create the tamper-proof seals that we now see on all medication bottles that we get from the grocery store and shit. That way we know if they've been tampered with. This case is the reason why we have tamper-proof seals. And that's all I got for you, honestly.
That is absolutely insane that they don't know.
I mean, again, like, this happened in 1982, which was around the same time that all of this shit with Leonard happened. And
it was Leonard.
Yeah. Well, don't say it was Leonard. He's all the way in Australia. There's no way he would have been in Chicago. But it was in 1982, and if they weren't able to catch Leonard on DNA or anything like that, and they law-wise, like, I feel like there was just, I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't have been able to really do it no matter what they did, regardless of what tests they did or anything. I don't think they had the capability to really to solve this then. And I mean, you'd think they would have the capability to solve it now, but I kind of think this has left the general population's minds. And to think that, like, there weren't tamper-proof seals prior to 1982, like, it's only been like 40 years since, like, this happened.
Wow.
We've only had tamper-proof seals for 40 years.
That is nuts.
Yeah. I mean, like, before that, people could just be like, Halloween candy, razor blades. Like, you know, like, that's the kind of thing that, like, would have been done. And I don't know, man. There's There's only one other like suspect that was like only considered very briefly. Her name was Lori Dan. And I think it's a woman. Yeah, it's a woman. Uh,
Just like
her,
Leslie.
yeah, yeah. I have to make sure now before I say anything. Lori Dan, who poisoned and shot an unknown number of people in May 1988 around Illinois. He was briefly considered a suspect, but no direct connection was found.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So there's really like nobody like what? Wait a minute.
What?
Who is this person? I'm trying to figure out if it's a girl or a boy right now. I'm assuming it's a woman. I'm assuming it's a woman.
Has Sammy cracked the Chicago murder? Chicago Tylenol murder case?
Well, it's in an ongoing investigation currently. There was a surveillance photo of a woman named Paul. I think it's a woman. Please don't call me out. I think it's a woman. Paula Prince. There's surveillance video of her at like one of the shops purchasing cyanide tampered Tylenol at Walgreens at one of the spots, and it was released by Chicago Police Department. And the police believe that the bearded man that they found just feet behind Paula Prince. I'm sorry, Paula Prince is one of the victims. I was thinking that they thought that she was the bearded man. Paula Prince is one of the victims. I'm sorry. They thought that the guy that was the bearded man behind her was the killer. I feel like an idiot. Oh my God. I feel like oh man. So basically, like also the pharmaceutical industry like also kind of moved away from capsules, like the ones that you could take apart. I don't know if you've ever had like an echinacea pill, but like sometimes like the powder and there's like it's like one that you can actually take apart. And echinacea pills just have like echinacea powder inside of like a gelatin capsule that you can pull the capsule two pieces off and like dump it out and put whatever else you want. So a lot of the pharmaceutical industry moved away from those types of capsules and started doing more like gel caps or like just normal pills, like powdered compressed powder pills, just because it was too easy to contaminate the capsules that open, because too many things could be placed inside without knowing, you know. This case also made product tampering a federal crime, which is really cool.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And this actually resulted in a woman, her name is Stella Nickel. She tampered with a bunch of Excedrin, and she was sentenced to 90 years in prison for tampering with Excedrin with cyanide. She was convicted of 5 counts of product tampering, and it resulted in the death of her husband and another woman named Sue Snow. And this law passed after the Tylenol killings caused her to be convicted and sentenced to 90 years in prison because it is a federal crime. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was cool.
It's nice to see how fast they acted. Like, okay, there's a clear flaw in how we're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool too, because like clearly there is a flaw here and it's like it needs to be fixed immediately so this doesn't continue to happen.
I mean, you gave us 4 suspects, but it could also be a complete rando.
Yeah, like it could be someone that's not even on this list.
They did their thing. They watched the country burn, and then they're like, huh.
All right, I'm out. Yeah. Oh man, it's really crazy. That like there really is no like there's no justice in this case. There's no justice that can be done in this case because
so sad.
no one knows. Like, I think two of the suspects are dead. Um, uh, whatchamacallit? Yeah, there's Roger died in 2008. Um, I think Lewis is also dead. Um, is Kaczynski still alive? Yeah, Kaczynski's still alive, so he still could have information that we don't know about.
Mm.
And you know what? It's probably in his fucking cabin. It probably is, and it's really sucks. I don't know. He killed a lot of people. But yeah, that's the Chicago Tylenol murders. And we still don't know who did it. We probably won't ever know who did it.
Unless you get
But
that confession with all the evidence neatly, and that's
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think there was enough surveillance. I don't think there was enough technology then for us to have enough evidence in order to
Mm.
convict. Because even then, even if we could convict with the evidence that we had with like pill making machines and all that stuff, how to crime, um, even if we could convict with that, it's circumstantial. You wouldn't be able to find him guilty. So, and who knows? It also could have been a woman. It could have been a woman. All of the suspects here are men. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, that case always bugged me because there's literally like there's no closure to it.
Yeah.
And there's just it almost seems like there's not enough evidence for any of them to be like the most likely suspect.
And then like the victim's family, it's like,
Yeah. Well, one of them, almost the whole family's dead. Took them with him. Man, I feel bad for the Januses. I wonder if like any surviving family members um have like sued like Johnson and Johnson or like I don't know, or if they've spoken up or if they've looked into it themselves to try to figure out what happened. Um it makes me wonder because sometimes these things like they cause people to like want to go into like a certain field like that, you know, like
yeah,
with with Slenderman, like it caused the victim to want to go into the medical field.
yeah.
So it makes me wonder if like one of these people like wanted to go into the pharmaceutical industry to do more research, or if one of them wanted to go into police work to investigate their own damn case for their own family, much like we did with Black Dahlia. um I don't know, I find it very interesting. It always bugged me.
Very surreal. Like we'll never know.
We won't. There's I genuinely I have high doubts that we will ever know who did this. And that really sucks because like these families can never have closure.
Yeah. It was really just right time, right method, and just
Wrong place.
yeah. And just like
Wrong
the
pill bottle. Should have reached always reach for the pack. Oh, maybe that's why. Because you know how like people always say like when you go to the grocery stores, like all the good ones are like in the back because all the
yep,
front ones are the ones that people fuck with.
yep.
Mm,
That's
that's
devilishly clever. If
that's
that's
like
how they did
a
it.
that's a culture thing too. Like, you know, like that thing has been, it makes me wonder if this was the cause of that cultural shift where people were like started saying like I wonder if that's why people started saying, "Hey, go towards the back, the better products are in the back," because
Hmm.
if they were found in the front, they were tampered with.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
I wonder if hmm. Is that where it all began?
I don't know. You know,
Listeners, do research for us.
yeah, I almost want to ask my mom because she was born prior to all this happening, so she lived through all of this happening, but it's not like she was in Chicago at the time. But I'm curious if like when she was younger, um if she like ever heard that saying going around like around that time, or if it was just a saying that was developed after a while, you know? I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe I'll ask my mom. Maybe I'll ask my grandma.
Ask grandma.
Ask grandma. Ooh, I might have an answer for that. I'll text my grandma. I'll text my grandma. I'll ask her, and we'll see. And if I get an answer, I'll give it to you in the next episode.
Sweet. Wait, your grandma texts?
Both my grandmas text. Yeah, one of them more than the other because the other one just like gets on her iPad at 2 a.m. and texts me random shit because she doesn't know how to turn off the caps lock. I adore it. The texts are so funny. They're so funny and they're so cute because she obviously like I know what she's trying to say and she's trying to say it in like a very sweet way, but it just always comes off so aggressive because she uses a lot of emojis and I think she doesn't know how to backspace. So like she just repeats herself to try to get her point across in the text.
That's cool having tech savvy grandparents. I don't know what that is. My
One
grand
of no, that grandma is not tech savvy. I would not call her tech savvy at
well, at least
all.
she tries. I mean, my grandparents, I mean, my grandfather, not jokingly, seriously calls my or just laptops in general, television typewriters.
Wow.
Dylan, get on that television typewriter and I want to know the weather,
Wow.
grandpa.
Interesting. Yeah, my other grandparents are very tech savvy. They've always really tried. My grandma on that side, she took like a computer class when computers first like began to be like a thing. Like she actually physically went back to school to learn computer technology and stuff like that so that she could do like secretary work and stuff like that. Like QuickBooks,
Yep.
all that stuff. Um, and so she went back to learn all that. And while it may be dated, she has tried to kind of keep up with the times to try to not be so outdated while she still has probably like an iPhone 6. But like it's tiny, it works for her, you know.
Hey, I had my iPhone 6 till last year, so
Yeah, you know, I don't judge. They're just very slow. But she's past the point of keeping like photographs in boxes. She's actually like learned to like digitally scan everything into her computer and organize her computer in such a way that like she's able to go through just family photos just whenever she wants. She's pretty good. She's pretty good.
my grandfather bought a $1,000 PC so he could play solitaire.
That sounds like my other grandfather who is no longer with us sadly. But yeah, he used to run like five antivirus softwares all at the same time and they would all try to compete with each other. But he also was an avid chainmail forwarder. So
Oh,
like he would always just get so much spyware and those scans would be on all day long. Like it was just like it was barely a functioning computer. It was so sad. And then when he would use it, he would play bookworm. So
do you have a fun grandparents story, listener? Leave it in the
yeah,
comments below.
yeah. I want to know your grandparent technology stories because there's some silly ones. My grandfather had a flip. My other grandfather, the one who is still with us, he had a flip phone up until a couple years ago when we finally were like, Grandpa, please, I can't text you on a flip phone. Please.
Yeah, my grandfather would get very upset when he got texts because he didn't know how to read them or how to open them.
Oh
And then he was like, am I getting charged extra for this? And then he'd call the phone company and be on the phone for like an hour fighting with them.
Yeah.
Like, am I getting charged for this? Let me tell you something, miss.
Oh my god.
I fought for this
See,
country.
we got my oh my god. We got my grandpa away from the flip phone by getting him an iPad first. And we had him play around with the iPad while he still had his flip phone. So he wasn't totally like upset to the idea of technology. So he would play his little games on his iPad. He would read his books when they were like on the like in the living room and all that stuff. And we were like, Grandpa, wouldn't it be great to have this with you whenever? And so that it would just be a smaller iPad that has phone capabilities. And he took the bait. So
Sammy, are you a football fan by any chance?
my grandfather, who is no longer alive, was a huge football fan. Specifically 49ers.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I'll send you the video later, but it's kind of synonymous with Patriots fans. Bill Belichick is an old school man, and he's like upper 60s and
I do know that name.
best of all time.
I do know that name. Yes.
He was trying in the middle of a game, like Microsoft was like an NFL sponsor, so all the coaches had tablets, and it was like, oh, look at the NFL coaches using the things. And you see him like hitting it, and he's shaking it. And he doesn't understand what's happening. He takes it and he spikes it, and he storms off, and he's screaming, doesn't know what's going on, and he's like, I'm never using that again. And Microsoft and the NFL have to like release a statement after the game.
Oh my god. Could you imagine being that upset with technology that you literally have an entire corporation apologize on your behalf?
Like, we understand that Coach Belichick doesn't like the technology, but we appreciate his right to use his pen and paper.
Oh my god. Me and my sister used to play basketball a lot, and she had a particularly brutal coach a couple years, and he was always like one that would like slam like the whiteboard with the plays and shit with the clipboard. He would always slam the whiteboard clipboard on the benches at the basketball games. There was one day he was so pissed off. I don't remember what happened, but he was so mad. He called a timeout. He gets down on one knee, and he's talking to all of these like 6th grade girls. Like, it's an all girls basketball team. He's talking on one knee to all these 6th grade girls, screaming at them. He gets so pissed off, takes the whiteboard and cracks it over his knee and like completely splits it in half. And he got ejected. He got a technical for it. It was during a timeout and he got a technical for it. Oh man.
You do realize that most of these kids have this is like their first time ever playing the game, right, Coach? Like,
oh, he made people cry for sure. There's a reason why my dad was assistant coach, because he would get thrown out frequently.
Sorry, not sorry for this side tangent on the elderly and technology, but
yeah, sorry.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. One, grandparents technology, but two, that our original topic, the Chicago Tylenol murders, because very weird case. Much like, I'm sorry, I reference this case almost every week, but I don't care. Jack the Ripper, we'll never know, and it's just one of those freak, like, worst case, worst time. We'll never know.
Although I do have a suspect that I do lean towards on Jack the Ripper. I do have one that I lean towards. Was it? What's the name?
Do not say. We will do it. We will do it.
We will.
It will be episodes long because
we'll do Jack and we'll do OJ, because those are two that like I think we both are like we are very passionate about.
We could do seasons of that. I mean, Jack has so many potential suspects. many believe that he went to New Orleans, and there are like, kills very similar to his that happened in New Orleans like 10 years later.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how massive that case
Yeah.
is.
It's the same with the Cleveland torso murders. That they believe that that Black Dahlia may have been the final victim of the Cleveland torso killer. But and then there's also Jill the Ripper, that it was a woman, where they were
Impossible.
like, yeah, but no, but like it makes sense because like if a woman was walking around with blood on her dress, there were midwives at the time. People
Yeah.
wouldn't have given it a second thought. No one would give it a second thought. It's a woman. Why would a woman do this? Why? But like, like
That is like the best time in history to be like, if you were a woman and you want to kill someone, like no one
oh
will
yeah,
suspect me. They think I'm too
no
dumb.
one. Yep. Yeah. But don't do it to your husband, because then you get locked in a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, times have changed, thank the Lord.
Oh yeah.
Let us know what you thought about this case. If you have any suspects that we didn't cover, your theories, stop playing with your Alex hair, Sam.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Dad. God. I didn't wash my hair, so I put a clip-in bangs in. And when I like look a certain way, I look like a 14-year-old boy playing Minecraft. So
Alex,
I've named him Alex.
I went with Trevor, but she's like, nah, I'm not Trevor. I'm Alex.
No, I knew a kid named Trevor. It can't be Trevor.
Alex, where can they find you?
You can find me at Studio Sticks, which is my tiny shop, my little paper goods shop that I'm trying to start with stickers and my art and stuff like that. And for more of my artwork, you can find me at Fiendish Goth. And if you just want to talk to me in general, you can find me at Flipping Tables, which is with 3 P's. That's my personal account, so hit me up there. I'm probably there more often than I am on the other two, just in all reality, like.
Definitely go follow her at all of her stuff. Follow us at KPM. Follow us at KPM Dylan if you want to just message me directly. Can you give us a hint for next week's?
Well, okay, so I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a warning, and then I'll give you a hint. A warning is that this next case is going to be a 2-parter. It's a very long case. The entire first part is basically backstory, to explain basically like you need to understand it in order to get up to the point where the crimes actually occur, because there are so many petty crimes that happen prior to this that like you need to understand before you can get to this, because they all lead up to the big crimes.
You need the backstory.
Yeah, you do need the backstory. So next episode will be backstory. Episode after that will most likely be murder.
Murder.
Yeah. And it is about it's kind of a local case. And it was a case that I did not know about. And it's a little creepy because I frequent this place a lot because I have a family member that lives in this place. It's kind of a local case for me. And I didn't know about it up until maybe a couple years ago.
All right.
So those are your
Two-parter.
hints.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I got to finish those notes tonight for the second part, because if you saw how many pages, Dylan, that I have, it's insane. I have to kind of cull it down a little bit and condense it to what's important.
Cannot wait. Sammy, thank you so much again for being with us. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Have a good one, guys.